We provide technical support both to the Ministry of Environment and Energy as well to regional and local authorities for developing their energy innovation plans, and also CRES is the national coordinator of the Covenant of Mayors. Sorry, just a second. So today this event is taking place, as I mentioned, in the context of the Efficient Buildings project. This is a horizontal project of the Interreg Med program, which is a follow-up of the METNIS project. In the specific objective 2.1, which is to raise capacity for better management of energy in public buildings. The project started in January 2019 and is scheduled to end in June 2022. And the scope of the project is the dissemination of the results of the 10 modular projects developed by Interreg Med in the thematic of energy efficiency in public buildings. To increase the capacities of owners and managers of these buildings to design and implement better energy efficiency practices, to create synergies among projects at local, national and EU level, with the ultimate aim to influence public policies in that respect. This is the project website and the partnership. So the partners participating are the City of Nice, Energy Cities, Interreg, CMCC, the University of Patras from Greece, CRES, and ADEN. And all this, of course, has as a background the wider EU objectives and requirements, which are becoming more demanding in terms of buildings renovation. The EU Green Deal targets for a renovation wave, which puts public buildings at the front of this initiative. They have a key role model to play for the public and the wider industry. And the renovation wave builds on existing EU directives provisions, such as the EBBD and the EED, with the requirements of these directives in terms of increasing the energy efficiency of public buildings. So the scope of the Efficient Buildings project is to, of course, accelerate the implementation of all these EU strategic targets. So this is just a short introduction, and then I will move on to the first presentation of today's workshop, which is to do with a general presentation of the Impulse project. Sorry, let me just share the next presentation. So the title of this presentation is Impulse Management Support System, a methodology for planning energy efficiency interventions in public buildings. I will give you a more general description of the project, and then my colleague Katerina will follow in the next presentation with a more detailed look at the tools that the project developed. And then we have two more presentations by Vera Valero from the Valencian Institute of Buildings, who was a partner in the Impulse project and is currently leading the Impulse Plus project, and also from Ms. Silvia Rossi from Clust-ER BUILD from Emilia-Romagna region in Italy, who are also associated partners of Impulse Plus project, and Ravenna, as a municipality in Emilia-Romagna, was a partner in Impulse. So this is the project. It had a total duration of 30 months, an overall budget of 2.2 million euros. It was co-funded by ERDF. The project drivers, I will not go into detail with the EU demanding requirements already mentioned, but just to emphasize that the main driver for the project was to address the requirement of the requiring an annual renovation rate of 3% of buildings of a floor area over 250 square meters, which are occupied and owned by central government. So there is a requirement for these buildings to be renovated each year, but also the directive asks for member states to encourage public bodies, including at regional and local level, to adopt an energy efficiency plan, either freestanding or as part of a wider environmental plan containing specific energy saving and objectives and actions for their public buildings, following the exemplary role of central government buildings. So the overall target of Impulse project, amongst other things, the main target was to focus on these requirements and try to provide tools that can support public authorities at regional and local level to address these. Another driver, of course, was the Covenant of Mayors initiative, which is a voluntary initiative, but a very large one, including thousands of municipalities from Europe and beyond, and as part of which the local authorities have to prepare sustainable energy action plans, SEAPs or SECAPs as they are now called, which include a section on public buildings. And also one of the other drivers was the slow rate of public buildings energy renovation currently at local level, mainly due to a number of reasons. The absence of technical energy data on the municipal building stock, the lack of specific methodologies to organize the information, the absence of reliable systems to map the building's energy performance and to plan cost-effective technical and financial plans, the limited resources of public authorities for these actions, and the lack of funding to implement deep renovations. So, which means that public authorities have to do careful planning of gradual renovations of some buildings every year. So they need a decision support tool to support them in selecting which are the buildings that are in priority for renovation or that it's more cost effective to renovate. So the project involved 10 partners from 5 Mediterranean countries: Greece, Spain, France, Italy, Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and 6 associated partners. CRES, as I said, was the lead partner of the project, and the project ended in July 2019. It was in the category pilot testing project of the MED modular projects in specific objective 2.1. Sorry. Just to say about the partnership that the concept was to involve from each country a public authority and a technical partner. So the technical partner was involved in the more technical work of implementing and developing the tools, and then these were adopted by the relevant public authorities and implemented in their own situations. So overall, Impulse applies an integrated transnational approach for planning energy renovations in public buildings, taking into account the specificities of the Mediterranean region as regards the building stock, the available energy efficiency solutions, the climate, national regulations, etc. And actions took place in 6 representative Mediterranean cities, respective municipalities: Heraklion in Crete from Greece, the municipality of Elche from Spain, Cannes, the city of Cannes in France, the municipality of Ravenna in Italy, the city of Osijek in Croatia, and the city of Mostar from Bosnia and Herzegovina. The overall objective was to develop a system that can help public authorities to plan reliable and affordable energy renovation projects for public buildings. And there were some more specific objectives to develop systems for the classification of public buildings in each pilot city into typologies, the assessment of renovation scenarios and cost optimal intervention, to develop renovation roadmaps and financial plans for gradual energy transition, to develop a GIS-based information system with a mapping of the results for each typology in each pilot city, to use the Impulse tools to develop the relevant sections on public buildings within the SEAPs or SECAPs for the Covenant of Mayors, to undertake pilot small-scale renovation projects in the pilot cities, and then most importantly, to these results to be transferred and be replicated to other public authorities in the Med area. This was done both in the duration of the project. There were transferring and portability campaigns for this, but is also now the scope of the current Efficient Buildings project, and part of the reason for this is today's workshop. And ultimately, the uptake of the results in public policies at local and national level. So to show in a chart the overall Impulse approach, the first step towards planning energy innovations for public buildings includes a classification of the building stock using classification protocols. Then undertake energy analysis and simulation of the building typologies, again using various tools. And from this analysis result in key performance indicators for the existing state and for various renovation scenarios. At the intermediate stage, all of these results from the analysis were integrated into an Impulse GIS system for each pilot city. And at the final stage, some small-scale pilot renovation projects took place in the 6 territories. In parallel, throughout the project, there were transferring and communication actions that took place, videos that were developed, which are available on the project website, national networking forums of relevant stakeholders, technical and policy meetings, training seminars, and portability campaigns. In the next presentation that will follow, you will hear more about the various steps and the tools that this chart includes. So just to summarize the results that we got from the project, overall, there were 6 libraries developed of public building typologies in the participating pilot cities, 1 integrated management support system that was integrated within a GIS map in each pilot city, and it includes packages of cost-effective energy efficiency solutions replicable to other Med territories, 6 small-scale renovation projects in the participating cities, 14 letters of intent from public authorities at national, regional, and local level to further exploit the project outcomes. And also, we managed to achieve 50 completed SEAPs sections on public buildings in Med municipalities. Just to say some more things about the small-scale renovation projects, these were selected to indicatively 1 building in each pilot city. There were buildings selected which were of high value for the citizens and the end users, and the selection was based on the results of the energy simulation analysis in terms of buildings that presented high energy saving potential with the least cost. So as the budget for implementing these actual renovations was relatively limited, we wanted these projects to have the most cost optimal result, and also a demonstrative character for the public and the users. Monitoring equipment was also used to measure building energy performance before and after the pilot projects. And also these projects manage to raise engagement of the relevant personnel of public authorities and their capacities in managing and planning such projects in the future. There were also extensive portability campaigns that took place, focus group meetings, national seminars, with the participation of political actors from each partner country, and the Covenant of Mayors involved stakeholders such as Covenant of Mayors coordinators in each territory, and also the respective mayors of the cities, with a view to eventually uptake the results of this project into political level for forming energy policies in the future at local level. And as I mentioned, as a result of the project in the portability campaigns, 15 to 20 additional municipalities in each partner country were involved and experimented with the project outputs. So they used them to complete the relevant section of their SEAPs concerning public buildings. So CRES, as a partner of this project of the Efficient Buildings Community, and with our role as a national energy agency promoting the energy efficiency of buildings, we invite all public authorities at national, MED, or EU level to exploit these tools that were developed by Impulse, which we hope could support you towards gradual energy renovation of the public building stock. This is the website of the project where you can find all relevant information. Thank you for your attention. And I will now pass on to my colleague Katerina Sfakianaki, who will present the next presentation going into more detail on the tools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eleni. Hello to all of you. Please accept my apologies for the technical problems at the beginning. Finally, I will present the Impulse technical results, but I still have a problem with my camera. So I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Okay, wait a moment. Okay, thank you. Okay. So, following the presentation of Impulse general description, I will present Impulse tools which have to do with the prioritization of buildings to be upgraded and the prioritization of cost-optimal energy renovation scenarios. As Mrs. Hadjigeorgiou said before, the methodology of Impulse project has 3 steps. The first step has to do with public buildings clustering. The second step has to do with the energy analysis and the definition of key performance indicators. And the third step has to do with decision-making for gradual renovation planning. So, regarding the first step of our methodology, for the 6 pilot cities, we collected all the necessary information for all the buildings of the public building stock. And we record all these data to an XLS file. As you can see in this slide, we had a lot of data regarding the building type, the construction year, the number of floors, the floor area, the construction type, as well as the heating and the cooling system. And in accordance with these criteria, we tried to categorize the buildings into typologies. We have also available information concerning the energy performance certificate. We had building drawings, information concerning the construction elements and the building systems, the annual final energy consumption from solid fuels and electricity, and the total annual primary energy consumption. So the first step was to record all the available information concerning the building stock. And then for each one of the building typologies, we chose an ambassador building, a characteristic building from each typology. And for this ambassador building of public building typology, we record some general information concerning the type of building, the construction year, the number of floors, the number of occupants, some photographs, and then some data regarding building envelope, the orientation, the area of facades, the U values, and finally, some information concerning the building systems, the heating system and the cooling system. And these data were for all the ambassador buildings and for the 6 pilot cities. The second step has to do with the energy analysis for ambassador buildings with energy simulations. And we decided to perform simulations for minor retrofit scenarios, medium retrofit, major retrofit, and deep renovation. Minor retrofit scenario means that we have interventions up to 35,000 euros and a reduction of energy performance indicators higher than 15%. Medium retrofit means that we have interventions up to 100,000 euros and a reduction of total primary energy higher than 25%. Major retrofit, we have minimum energy performance requirements according to the legislative framework in each pilot city. And deep innovation has additionally the integration of renewable energy systems. And in the left side, you can see some ambassador buildings in case of pilot city of Heraklion in Greece. And here you can see in more detail the intervention for each scenario. For small-scale scenario, we have thermal insulation of roof apartment, compensation system and thermostatic valves, replacement of lighting fixtures with LED, and sensors for detecting presence and level of lighting. In medium and large-scale scenario, we have thermal insulation of horizontal and vertical structural elements, replacement of windows and door frames, and replacement of air conditioning system. And finally, for deep renovation scenarios, we have additionally the installation of photovoltaic system. So you can see in this slide that the scenarios have a perspective of gradual energy upgrade from the one scenario to another. And in this second step of our methodology, we have the possibility to prioritize the retrofit levels and scenarios in terms of investment and energy savings. And I can show you that for each ambassador building, we calculated the energy performance indicators like the total annual primary energy consumption, the environmental indicators like the total annual CO2 emissions, and also some cost indicators such as the annual total energy-related operational cost, the annual electricity cost. And this data we had for all ambassador buildings of each building category. And then we calculated the reference cost indicator, which has to do not only with the total investment cost, but also with the total annual energy saved. So we decided the reference cost indicator for our case to be the total investment cost per total annual energy saved. And as you can see in the table in the slide, for each ambassador building, we have calculated the reference cost indicator for all the scenarios. In the table in the slide, you can see the minor, as an example, you can see the minor retrofit scenarios. So we calculated the value of this indicator for all the ambassador buildings. And for example, you can see that in case of ambassador building 2, we have 3 different values for 3 different scenarios. And you can see that if the value is quite low, for scenario 2, 0.98, we have a good renovation scenario, a preferable scenario, while when the value is quite high, like scenario 3, 17.70, we have a very high reference cost indicator. That means that we must not proceed with these interventions. Also, we can compare the values between ambassador buildings. So we will choose a building where the value of the reference cost indicator is quite low. For example, ambassador building 10 has the lower reference cost indicator. With this way, we have a prioritization of retrofit levels, and at the same time, we have a prioritization of buildings in terms of investment and energy savings. And the other important thing is that we can have a projection for all buildings of our stock. And that means that we can, after the calculations from for the ambassador buildings, we can project the results for all the buildings and have energy, environmental, and cost performance indicators for the whole building stock, for base case scenarios, but also for energy renovation interventions. And finally, the third step, in the third step of our methodology, we can select the performance indicators that are important for our case over a range of 54 indicators. We have the opportunity to select, here in this slide, you can see that we selected the investment costs, the use of RES, the CO2 emissions, and the simple payback period. The sum of weight factors must be 100. And from this tool, we have the desired levels of energy upgrades for each building. And so we can have an energy renovation plan for the whole building stock of the pilot city. And Here we can see the whole methodology into steps. As I said before, the first step is the typologies, the building's typologies for each pilot city, the classification, and the selection of a representative ambassador building. The second step has to do with the energy analysis, using dynamic energy simulation tools, but this is not necessary. You can use also simplified tools, or you can use the data for the energy from the energy certificates. So we can have an analysis of existing conditions and energy renovation scenarios. So with this second step, we have the opportunity to prioritize the typologies, prioritize the energy renovation scenarios, and estimate the total investment cost and total energy saving for renovating the entire building stock. And finally, we have the third step, in which we can develop a long-term energy renovation plan of the public building stock based on selection parameters for the buildings to renovate each year. That's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. After all the team present the Impulse result, we are ready to answer in any questions you have. Thank you.
I would like to add, following Ms. Fakianaki's presentation, with regards to the last slide, now summarizing the developed tools, we have put in the chat links to these tools, which are all, of course, available on the project website as well, on the Impulse project website, but just for your ease of finding them. There is one common link for the first two tools, 3.31 and 3.4.1, and then the second link is for the plugin tool, and also the second post to the chat includes completed examples of these tools for the pilot city of Heraklion, but on the project website there are also other completed examples for all the pilot cities, so you can refer to them. So we can move to the next presentation, which is from Ms. Vera Valero from the Valencian Institute of Building in Spain, who was a partner of the Impulse project and is currently leading the Impulse Plus project. So Vera, over to you.
Thank you, Eleni. Thank you very much. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I think you can see now my presentation. I'm going to present here our experience in the development of Impulse Plus, of Impulse project. We work together with Elche municipality in Spain doing the Impulse project to develop the tools and the methodology that has been explained so far. And now we are leading Impulse Plus project, that is a capitalization project on some of the Impulse results and the tools that has started it started in March, and well, I'm going to start first telling you about our experience, the experience in Spain, the experience that we follow with the Elche municipality. This is a slide is only just to summarize the methodology that we follow in the project. That is the one that has Katerina explained right now. I have included a fourth step, that is the financial scheme tool, that has not been explained here, but it is just because the energy renovation planning tool and the financial scheme tool had been the outputs selected by the MOD program to be capitalized in the Impulse Plus project. So I will later explain. I will later speak about them. So this is the steps that all the Impulse pilot cities follow. And I'm going to briefly present the results of the Elche city. In the first step, when we performed the classification of the public building stock into typologies, we started from an initial sample of 85 public buildings. In the case of Elche, the selected criteria for the classification was the building use, the construction year, the number of floors, and the surface. Once we performed the classification into typologies, only 71 public buildings were classified into 12 typologies. This is because 14 buildings were excluded from the classification because they were very singular buildings that we consider that because some of them, for example, were not replicable. They were so singular in terms of the construction systems, or because they were the only one representative of this typology, that it makes no sense to consider them into a typology. So when we performed the classification of Elche public buildings, we got 12 typologies. 7 of these typologies were for educational buildings, 2 for sociocultural centers, 1 typology represented office buildings, and 2 typologies represented sports centers. When we were speaking in terms of the number of buildings that were included in these typologies, 57 buildings were educational buildings, so 80% of the building of the public stock were educational buildings. And for example, there were only 2 office buildings included in one typology. This is because in the case of Elche, they have many office buildings that were not. This is mainly because the input methodology applies at building scale. We can't include, or we can't evaluate, we can't include in this assessment spaces inside the buildings. So many, in this case, Elche have many of their offices were included in buildings at the ground on the first floor, but there were not complete office buildings. Regarding the second step, when we were speaking about the energy efficient measures that we get from the energy simulation results for the minor retrofit, mainly the energy efficient measures, we were speaking about the replacing of existing lighting by LEDs and the installation of solar collectors for domestic hot water. You can see there in the slide more or less the annual savings of primary energy we get and the simple payback periods we were speaking. In the case, for example, when we are speaking about minor retrofit levels and the installation of solar collectors, the simple payback period increases or reaches 20 years. This is because mainly we were referring to buildings with very low consumption of domestic hot water. In the case of medium and major retrofit, we have that in half of the cases, the scenarios were common. I mean that when we were trying to reach the objectives established for a medium retrofit scenario, we were reaching the major retrofitting scenarios objectives. It was difficult to establish these 2 levels, differentiated levels. Regarding the measures that we apply in this retrofitting, the main energy efficient measures that we were applying in these scenarios, we are speaking about the replacement of existing lighting by LEDs, the installation of solar collectors, but we were also implementing thermal insulation in facades and roofs, the improvement of windows tightness, and the replacement of windows. One of the singular things is that when we were applying external thermal insulation composite systems, the payback period that we got for these scenarios increases considerably. And when we were going for deep retrofitting scenarios, the combinations the energy efficient measures that we were applying were the ones that we were applying for medium and major, but we included the photovoltaic energy production. Here you have some of the results we have for these scenarios, but when we are applying this data that we have for the ambassador buildings, but when we project this data to the whole initial sample of municipal buildings, these are the data that we get. I don't want to see them very detailed. I think it is important. This Excel file offers us the opportunity to evaluate or to assess the energy saving potential of our public building stock. So it is really important the amount of information we get from this tool. Here I'm going to go very fast through these slides that they are only some graphics that refers to the primary energy savings, some percentages that you can see depending on the retrofitting scenarios that we are considering, but also depending on the use of the building. This is the same graphics, but we are speaking about the avoided CO2 emissions. The image in the left part of the slide, you can see the average percentage of CO2 emissions avoided by depending on by scenario and by use. But in the left part, you have the data for all the stock. This is because, as you can see, as the Elche municipality has many buildings that were for educational use, this increases a lot. And regarding the third step, that is the energy renovation planning tool, we started, the Elche municipality joined the Covenant of Mayors, and at the moment of the Impulse Plus project, they were revising their sustainable energy action plan, and they were trying to define their sustainable energy and climate action plan. So the objectives they want to comply with when we were defining the energy renovation, when we were using the energy renovation planning tool, were to reduce CO2 emissions by 40% by 2030, to increase the energy efficiency by 27%, and to increase the use of energy from renewable resources by 27%. There was also a political will at this moment to improve educational centers and to encourage the generation of renewable energies. So at this point, we start working with the energy renovation planning tool. We start in an iterative process, so we have to define the input data that has explained Caterina before, and we have to check the results that we got from this from the tool comply with the objectives that the municipality of Elche have in mind, because they consider that the 3% of percentage of surface to be renovated yearly was important, but they were at this moment that they were defining the sustainable energy and climate action plan, and they were trying to use it for this purpose. So at the end, they decided that they were going also to use one key performance indicator to govern or to govern the design of their energy renovation plan. That was the total investment cost per total annual energy save, as they considered this indicator was the most efficient way to invest their public money. They also positively penalized the public building typology number 1. That was one of the typologies representing educational centers, and also penalized positively, they consider very important, the renewable energy systems. They work with all scenarios and all the public building typologies, and they start working with a 3% of surface to be renovated yearly, but with this percentage, they didn't meet initially the objectives that they wanted regarding the emissions, and so at the end they increased this surface until 7%. So with this, introducing this data in the energy renovation planning tool, they get a yearly renovation plan for 40 years. They achieve the energy and CO2 emission savings objectives for 20 and 30, and the bad point of the only thing that we have to highlight here is that as this tool works automatically, there was an imbalance in terms of yearly investment required and the number of projects. So some years the number of projects were very big, considering that in other years the number of projects that they need to implement were much fewer, and the same with the investment requirements. And the final tool that we haven't seen here is the financial scheme assessment. This tool it assesses the two ways of financing the renovation plan that we get from the energy renovation plan, and these are the results we got from many simulation and we test the tool with many data, and these are the results they got. I'm going to explain very briefly now what is the objective of Impulse Plus project and the future developments that we foresee in the project. The project is a transferring project of the MED program. The objective is to capitalize or to transfer to other new territories the outputs that were some of the results and the outputs that we get in the Impulse project. These outputs are the decision-making support tool, the plugin processor, KPIs processor for the automated hierarchy of public buildings, and the financial scheme evaluation tool for gradual building energy renovation of planning. There are 6 active partners in this project. 2 partners have the role of giver partners, that are Valencia Institute of Building and Elche City Council. We have complementary roles as a technical partner and authority partner in Impulse Plus project, and we have involved 4 new receiver partners, new territories in this project that are going to use and implement the Impulse methodology and tools. We have 2 cities, the Valencia City and the municipality of Cooper. The Valencia City is a big city if we compare it with the cities involved in the previous Impulse project. And we have also the municipality of Cooper from a country, Slovenia, that was not involved in the Impulse project. We have now 2 regions involved, the Emilia-Romagna region in Italy and Western Greece region, because we want to test if the methodology can be applied also at regional scale. This is the transferring process we have designed in the project. We have defined a 4 steps process. The first step we call the first activity is paving the way for transferring. Here we have defined 3 main tasks to be developed. That is the identification of the responsible agents and departments in each of the territories. Or the second one is the introduction to partners to the Impulse philosophy and to the Impulse methodology and tools. We recently developed an international webinar to introduce receiver territories in the Impulse philosophy and tools. And now we are working in a needs assessment survey that we will try to identify what are the needs of receiver partners regarding the tools that we are going to work with. The following step is the fine-tuning for transferring. We have to adjust the the energy renovation and the financial planning tools to the new requirements established by the European Commission. But we have also to make them compatible with the requirements of the new territories involved in the project. And we have also to create and adapt public building typologies and the key performance indicator databases. The following step is the transferring in process, the hands-on training. We foreseen an international online training in the new improved tools, but also some training at local and regional level, just because some of to involve all the people from the departments and municipalities that are not available to attend this international training. In the last step is the take-up of the transfer outputs, where the new territories involved will develop an energy renovation plan and using the new improved tools. And they will also develop some protocols for the later use of these tools. Now, at this moment, we are at the beginning of the beginning of the project. So, for the moment, what I want to show you is a flow chart we have developed to guide the new territories in the use of the tools and in the implementation of the methodology. In the right up part of the slide, you can see the steps of the impulse methodology and associated the templates, the tools and results of the input project we have to work with and to develop these steps. So we have some Excel files, but also we have some templates, some tools, and also some reports that we can use to follow this methodology. We have also some reports, very detailed reports that can be used, were originally developed to guide the impulse partners in the implementation of the activities of the project, but it could be, we are going to use them as they are very detailed. We are going to use them to guide the new territories in the implementation of these tools and in the use of these tools. So we have designed this flowchart to guide these new territories in the use of the tool. The first question we make them is the new territory involved in the impulse project comes from a country previously involved in the impulse project or not, because as I told you before, there is a municipality from Slovenia that there was no partner involved in the impulse project from Slovenia, so they have to follow the impulse methodology from the beginning. So they are going to apply all the methodology in a very fast way, because the Impulse Plus project is going to last only 16 months. And later we have other partners, Italian, Spanish, and Greece partners that are going to apply the methodology, but they have the experience from other municipalities that were previously involved. So they can build, they can work based in the work that were developed by these municipalities. So they have to identify what are the previous city involved in the project and what are the classification criteria that they use to build their public building stock library. They have to identify, to define their initial sample of public buildings they are going to work with, and they have to classify these public buildings according to using the criteria that the city previously involved has been used. So the following point is to identify if these typologies of the city that was previously involved in impulse project encompasses a sufficient representative percentage of their public building stock, because if not, they have to consider if there are other classification criteria that will better reflect the specificities of their public building stock. And in this case, they have to start basically from the beginning. There are other cases. We have two partners that we don't know very well, but probably there will be in this point. But we have other case that is the Valencia city that we know that they have a very big public building stock, so they are going to take profit of the work done by Elche City, and the following step they have to follow is to know if the energy simulation studies of the existing typologies are in accordance with the specificities of the analyzed stock regarding the operational conditions and current legislation or not. So as you can see here, this chart can help you to know where are you, or where could be your municipality, and what steps will you need to follow, and what tools or templates will be interesting to use. So here we have the key information that the new territories are going to use to start building their public building stock libraries. And this is just an example we show them. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vera. And now we move on to the last presentation of today. We are a bit behind schedule as well. So we'll give the word to Ms. Silvia Rossi, who is an architect from Clust-ER BUILD in Emilia-Romagna region in Italy. And the cluster is an associated partner of the Impulse Plus project. Silvia.
Yes, thank you so much. I will share my screen. Well, now you can see my screen. Well, welcome to everybody, and thank you, Eleni, for the presentation. And I just introduced myself, just a few words. I'm Silvia Rossi from Clust-ER BUILD and Emilia-Romagna region. And few words regarding Clust-ER BUILD, because maybe it's not so known as an association in the European ecosystem. Well, Clust-ER BUILD is one of the 7 clusters of Emilia-Romagna region. And here in our region, we have these kind of communities of public and private subjects that can share ideas, skills, tools, and to support the competitiveness of the Emilia-Romagna region business and enterprise. We are a private association. Our members come from enterprises, both from SMEs and big enterprise, research laboratories, public entities such as university and also research lab, training institution, and we collaborate based on open innovation methodology. Moreover, we work on the smart specialization strategy of Emilia-Romagna region. In our case, we focus, of course, on building and construction sector, and more than 50% of our members come from enterprises. But we have also stakeholders, for example, ANCI, that is our national association of municipalities, Green Building Council from Italy, and the Minister of cultural heritage, of transport, and we also have some agreement with the smart community and smart cities cluster in Italy. So we are also the associated partner of Impulse Plus, because in the past I work for Ravenna municipality, and I coordinate for Ravenna Impulse Med project, and we work on the process that Vera already told you and already described very well the process of Impulse Med project. So I go on and I want to focus on what we have done in Ravenna municipality, and also what Impulse project I've done for the municipality, because at the value, it was a really big support for policy makers and for the decision regarding the retrofitting plan. So we base our energy survey on different regulation. First of all, for the energy dynamic survey, we based on the technical regulation for the calculation method for heating, cooling, and the domestic hot water. And then we work on the classification. In Ravenna, we decided to use 7 criteria. The first one was the building type use, but it was compulsory for all the partners of Impulse Med. Then we decided to use a construction year, but in this case, use only 2 range. And I wanted to highlight this point because after you will see the difference with Impulse Plus for Emilia-Romagna region as a partner of the capitalized Impulse Plus. In this case, for Ravenna, we decided 2 different range. The first one for the very old buildings, and the second, the building that was constructed after 1976, because in Italy, the 1976 was the year of the first law for the energy retrofit. So everything changed after that year here in Italy. And then you can see the number of floor, gross floor area, construction type, and second highlight that I want to share with you, because in this case we have 2 different options. The first one is the type of construction made of brick, and the second one made of concrete. And this is another point that will be different in our Impulse Plus. And then heating system, that is an integration between the two systems, the generator of heating and also the final emission system, and then the cooling system. So here you can see our classification for regarding the social housing. We have only 5 type of building that we work on. Then offices, we have 3 different typologies of offices. So the number 7, 8, and public building typology number 9. Then library, school, and you can see that we have 4 different typologies of educational building, and then the sports hall. So here just an overview of our energy survey. So as you can see, this is the results of the energy diagnosis for the public building ambassador, divided in the different typologies. And you can also see the comparison between the base case in a light blue and then minor retrofit, major retrofit, major, and deep. And I want to underline that with the minor retrofit, we can, in Ravenna municipality, we can really achieve a good results for our building. And here you can see the comparison of the index profitability. That is so sorry, can I ask you to switch off the microphone because I have some noisy. And here you can see the comparison of the index profitability per each ambassador building. And that is the comparison of the net value and investment. So, well, what we have done in Ravenna municipality, we work on schedule of the intervention per each public building typology ambassador, and we share this schedule with our policymakers. So here you can see two examples. The first one is the primary school Lovatelli, that is the ambassador of the first class of our typology. And in the second schedule is of Randi primary and secondary school. So you can see the different scenarios that we calculate and analyze per each kind of retrofit. And one of the problems was that, for example, for the Lovatelli primary school, the first scenario was with photovoltaic panels, and in this case is not really adherent to the hierarchy of the retrofitting measure, because we prefer to work first on the envelope, then on the heating or cooling system, and then on the renewable energy system. So probably we decide to work with the scenarios number 2. And well, this is an example of analysis and retrofitting energy diagnosis. So we work on the 3D model, and then we analyze also the behind of our public building ambassador. In this case, you can see our dissemination materials, and this is Montanari primary and secondary school. As Vera and Caterina already said to you, that we could choose between 50 for key performance indicator. In our cases in Ravenna, we choose, first of all, primary energy consumption for our retrofitting plan, and also the CO2 avoided, because we decided to implement our action plan for sustainable energy. Moreover, because we have to convince our policymaker, we work also on economical key performance indicators, such as annual saving energy cost, or the index of profitability, or net value. And well, here we are, sorry for the Italians, but I take it from our energy diagnosis. Here are our building retrofit, minor retrofit, sorry. So as you can see, we decide the relamping because the intervention for the school, in this case for the gym of the school, is under 35,000 euros, but it decreased for around 15% of the energy consumption. So in this case, in Ravenna, we decided to work on two different pilot buildings that were both gym of primary and secondary school. So here you can see our analysis of the gym and also the looks and what kind of lamp we use for the retrofit, and also we monitor the consumption, and we noticed that the relamping was effectively works for our school. Here you can see an example, just a screenshot of what we have done with the impulse tool. That was very important for us because we could integrate impulse tool and the GIS platform of impulse in our Ravenna municipality GIS. And here you can see the GIS of Ravenna municipality and the public building typologies with the color that can identify the several typologies that we had in our classification, in Ravenna classification. I know that it is not a very good map, but you have to know that Ravenna is the second municipality for the territorial areas. So it's a very spread territory. And this is our integration with the action plan, because Impulse platform allowed Ravenna municipality to implement our energy action plan, not only the SECAP or PAESC, as you want to call it, but Impulse tool support also the technicians from Ravenna municipality to achieve other financial co-financial, how can I say, financial support from the region. In this case, we participated to the ROP ERDF co-finance and with the Montanari school. So the relamping is the pilot case of Impulse Med project. But thanks to Impulse tool, we noticed that Montanari school was a great example for the energy retrofitting, and we decided to present the big project of retrofitting of Montanari school to our region. So in this case, Emilia-Romagna region decided to finance the big project with changing windows and change also the energy plant for heating. And as you can see, the ERDF requirements from our region are more or less the same things that we already done with Impulse tool. So they ask us energy diagnosis, and we already done because Montanari School was one of the public building ambassador. They also ask the net value, and they also want to compare the situation ex ante and ex post intervention. And Impulse tool really support us in this kind of work. And at the end, we noticed that work on Montanari school with Impulse tool, with the ERDF, and also we can also achieve the conto termico, that is a national co-finance, we reach regarding the electrical energy more or less 25,000 euros as a benefit, and also for natural gas almost 20,000 euros. So if we compare the euros per year of work, we have a benefit of almost 18,000 euros. So in this case, Impulse Tools was very, very important for Ravenna municipality. But now, as a coordinator manager of cluster, the regional cluster build, we are associated partner of Impulse Plus Med because we have a very big network, and we can work with the other municipality, because as I told you at the beginning of my presentation, we have a strong relation with other municipality, with enterprise, with technicians in general. So we can support Impulse Plus with our network, and also our competence in energy consumption and sustainability of the energy planning. And Emilia-Romagna have 6,000 social housing buildings, and regarding Emilia-Romagna region, both Cluster Build and Arte would like to focus on social housing buildings, because we have a very big problem with this kind of typology of public building. And as I told you before, we wanted to focus on the classification criteria, because as I told you before, the type use will not be changed, but the year of construction and heating system will be changed, and we will work on the ranges, and we think to focus on Tabula project. That is one of the European project mentioned in Impulse Med project, because we can work on this big stock of public building, even if it's only one type of public building, because it's only the social housing, but we have several differences inside the same class of social housing. So we would like to implement the classification criteria for the social building, and we would like to work on the year of construction that can affect the dimensional and the constructive typologies, because the different dimensional and constructive typologies belong to different historical period, so can affect the energy behavior of the building stock. This is why we want to work on this kind of classification criteria. Not only, moreover, Cluster Build is working with the smart community of social housing as ACER, that is the Association of the of Social Housing in Emilia-Romagna region. And we already work with the community for new services, and we already study the impact, such as urban regeneration, economical impact, social impact, and environmental impact. So this is why Arter choose Cluster Build as associated partner, because we can easily disseminate the results. We can easily support Arter and Emilia-Romagna region in transferring all the results from Impulse Plus Med. So, well, I finish, and maybe I go very quickly, but I'm here available for your answer. for your question. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Okay. Okay, we've come to the end of the presentations for today. You are welcome to ask any questions you may have in the chat or unmute yourself and ask any questions you would like to ask any of the speakers. I don't see any questions so far on the chat. But we are at your disposal for any clarifications on the project, Impulse and the tools that were presented. We would like also to ask you to fill in a short feedback survey, which I will now post on the chat, so that you give us your feedback after today's from today's event. This is both on the technical aspects as well as the overall organization of the event and some other aspects you will see. So we would greatly appreciate it if you could complete the form either now or later at your disposal. And it will help us improve in our future events.
I might have a question, Eleni.
So I don't know if there are no further comments or.
Yeah,
yes,
I have
Peter.
a question. It's about the possibilities, for example, to use the tool in our twin city partnerships or in the twinning we are doing. So because Heraklion was in Europe in the Impulse project and they have a partnership with EBBD, and I'm asking, is there any adaptation necessary that we use the tool, and yeah, is there any recommendation for the transfer you can give? And maybe this is the same interest for other cities.
The tools are available. The tools are freely available to use. They are in Excel form. So essentially, there's no adaptation that is needed because each further public authority that wants to use the tools needs to anyway undertake some analysis of their own building stock using their own energy analysis tools, either simple or dynamic tools. So within those tools, they will take into account the local climate or building regulations on U values, etc., for the buildings. So there is a flexibility for each public authority using the tools to input their own results on these Excel tools, and then move from then onwards. So I think that yes, it's we would recommend also and encourage the use of the Impulse tools in municipalities of the southern shore of the Mediterranean. And there's no major adaptation that I think is needed at the moment.
Sorry.
Sorry, does someone else want to say something?
No, I just wanted to read
Peter,
maybe.
is that okay? Does that cover the question?
Yeah, that's fine for me. So thank you.
And Eleni, Mohamed asked me a question,
Yes.
but I cannot understand the question because he asked me the energy efficiency of the building only for the public or in summation of the public sectoral building, because of the ratio ID difference with the two gather, but I don't know what you mean with gather. So if you can answer, I will answer you.
Yes, sorry, I cannot. We cannot see this question, so I'm not sure what the. what you mean, but if you would like to either unmute yourself or put it in the chat so we can. Okay.
Or if you want to ask the question in French, I can translate if this is needed. So if it's easier for you.
Right. Oh, in France, okay. Okay, so okay. Can I answer, Eleni?
Yeah, but you should also read the question because
Yes,
we
of
can't
course,
see
yeah.
the question.
Sorry.
So I think it's
Yes.
a private conversation between you two. So please.
Yeah, so sorry. So the question is, my question for Silvia about the energy efficiency of the building only for the public or in summation of the public sectoral building, because there are the difference with the two. So well, in Ravenna municipality, we work on the singular public building. And when we decide when we decide to work on our retrofit energy plan with the period of 20 years, we decided to work not with the summation of the public sectoral building, but we decided to work only on one typologies. For example, what I presented today regarding only the educational one, because in our case, but if I remember well, all the six pilot city decided to work on educational public building. We decided to work only with the educational buildings, even if they are different between each other, because from a political point of view, it was the best action that the municipality could be intervene on the public sector building. And but when I suggest to work on other building, because we have to test the impulse tool, we notice that the retrofit energy planning can summarize in the different period all the public building, because for example, for the first year, you can work on the envelope of the school and also with the generator of the offices, and the tools can sum the benefit or the energy, the avoided energy consumption, so you can reuse what you save in the second year for other intervention. In this case, for example, Impulse Tools was a very good tool for our municipality.
I would just like to add to what Silvia just described, that one of the reasons that the educational buildings were the main focus of the analysis in the 6 pilot cities was because they were municipalities, and in the municipal building stock, typically there's great percentage of educational buildings compared to other buildings. At least in Greece, this is the situation. However, if a different public entity like a region decides to use the impulse tools, it may be that the breakdown of buildings is different. For example, there are more office buildings and not at all or very few educational. So impulse partners is focused on educational buildings, but the tools can be well used in other typologies depending on the specificities of the building stock you're assessing.
Exactly. And I would like to add something. For example, regarding the offices, we have some problem to intervene on the offices because in the same building, we have that is public in general, but we have offices of public administration, offices of, for example, the Association of Social Housing, and we have also some ambulatory that are public, but all in the same building. So if we want to intervene in this case, in that building, is a little bit difficult to collect all the person responsible for the energy retrofitting. So the school is easier for us to intervene also.
Okay, are there any further questions? Otherwise, I think we can close the session. And we are, of course, at your disposal also by email after the end of the event, the Efficient Buildings partners and ourselves at CRES to answer any further questions that may arise. So thank you very much for your participation today. And we hope you found the information useful, and please fill in the feedback
Thank you.
form. Send us your feedback on the event.
Bye-bye, and looking forward to see
Okay,
many of
thank you.
you
Bye.
next week for the following 3 capacity building workshops.